Hello, if you're new here to my channel, welcome. My name is Rachelle. Today in this video, I am going to be giving you a lot of book recommendations. There has been this book tag going on around BookTube, and I believe Steph Boyer, I hope that's how you say her last name, I'm not quite sure. Anyways, I believe Steph Boyer created it, and a lot of people have just been jumping on this and doing this as well. I'm kind of late to jump onto this, but you know, better late than never. Anyways, I thought it'd be really fun to just create my own book rec tag video, just to share with you guys all the books I would pick up for all these fun questions. And hopefully through this video, I can encourage you guys to read some of these books or add them to your reading list. But before we get into this video, be sure to subscribe to my channel, click the bell icon to stay up to date with when and what I post, and give this video a thumbs up. And without further ado, let's get into this book recommendation tag. The first question is what book you would tell people is your favorite. I have quite a few favorites, but if I were to pick one, I would pick Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. On my Goodreads, I have an all-times favorite shelf, and this is one of the books on it. If you watch some of my other videos, you know that I love Taylor Jenkins Reid, especially her historical fiction novels. Just the writing and her story and her characters, it's all perfection to me. I love this book so much because it follows Carrie Soto, who is a retired competitive tennis player. However, when another player who's younger and maybe just as good as she is about to break her records, Carrie comes out of retirement to try to reclaim her title. And throughout this book, we get to see Carrie, who is so determined, so badass, working hard at something she does best to just reclaim her title in tennis. Her journey through that process is just so inspiring to me because I was once a competitive figure skater, and I definitely know how it feels to be a female competitive athlete in the world of a sport that's very cutthroat. So there were just a lot of parallels between my life and the story, and I just found this book very relatable. The next question is what book is your guilty pleasure? And for me, I have to say that any romance book is probably one of my guilty pleasures, especially romance books that are a little steamy. To pick a book though that is my guilty pleasure, I would say it is The Deal by Elle Kennedy. I read the ebook version of this book. I actually don't have a physical copy of this book just because of the cover. I mean, I don't really want a book on my bookshelf with this cover. Anyways, this book is a guilty pleasure of mine because it is a college romance. The love interest is a hockey player and a jock. It's an enemies to lovers romance. It's steamy, it's smutty. For me, how I define a guilty pleasure romance book is a book that I don't want to fall in love with the characters and the story and the male love interest, but it just happens anyways. The next question is what book everyone loved but you didn't? I actually have a few book choices for this question, and I know they're gonna be unpopular opinions, but I'm gonna share them with you guys anyways. The first book is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. I know everybody loves this book, but it just wasn't it for me. The characters just annoyed me and the writing was very poetic. I don't know what it is about poetry, but it's just not something I can get used to and actually enjoy. Yeah, so these two reasons made Ugly Love a very unsatisfying read for me. The next book everybody loved but I didn't is November 9 by Colleen Hoover again. This is a romance novel, and the romance in this book just felt very unrealistic to me, and that's why I didn't like it. It felt so unrealistic because this couple only sees each other once a year over the span of 5 years. So it makes no sense to me how two people can fall in love when they only spend one day of a year together, and in between each day, which is November 9, they don't even talk on the phone or text or whatever. There's no communication between each day that they see each other. Yeah, so it just makes no sense to me how you could develop such an intense love that quickly and with no communication with the other person. The last book I have under this category is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. Everybody loves this book, but I didn't because of the pop culture references in this story. I don't like how it reads, and it just ages the story for me, and I just find it very unsatisfying. I actually went into this story really wanting to enjoy it, but the pop culture references just killed it for me. It's quite sad because I know everybody talks so highly of this book. The next question is what book I wish I could reread for the first time, and that book is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book also sits on my all-time favorite shelf. I just love how in this book, Evelyn Hugo is displayed as a strong, badass, independent woman, and she does everything in her power to get what she wants, but she doesn't let the problems that come along the way bother her and prevent her from getting what she wants. I just think her character alone is just very inspiring because it's hard to think the way she does, especially being a woman. So I just love her character a lot, and I also really like the story because it takes place in the old Hollywood times. And if you've been around my channel for a while, you know that I am a filmmaker, so it's really enjoyable to read how the film industry was like back then because it's so different now. I mean, there are a few similarities, but a lot of it is also different, so it's just a really interesting read overall for me. The next question is what book you read the fastest, and I actually have two picks for this question. The first book is The Love Hypothesis. This is a romance novel that falls under the fake dating trope. I literally read this book in a day. It was that quick of a read. It's a very cute romance, the story's enjoyable, and the characters are likable, and that's just what makes the story just go by so quickly. The next book pick I have is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This is a mystery thriller novel. The plot and the story moves so fast. There's so much tension and suspense, which is what makes it a page turner. And when you read this book, it's just so hard to put down because I just found myself desperate for answers. I also read this book within a day. The next question is what book deserves more hype? And I'm gonna have to say Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book is one of TJR's older novels, and I find that her older romance novels aren't really as popular as her historical fiction novels. One of her older novels, which is One True Loves, gets talked about a lot, but this one, Forever Interrupted, I don't think it does. Even though I haven't heard much about it, I decided to pick up this book anyways and read it, and I absolutely loved it. This book really isn't like any traditional romance novel. In every romance novel, the happy couple always ends up together, but in this book, they don't. In this book, the happy couple gets married very early on in the story, like literally at the beginning of the book, but the husband ends up getting in a terrible accident and does not survive that accident, so it leaves Elsie a widow. So throughout this book, we read about her journey coping with the loss of her husband and her developing a relationship with her mother-in-law who she didn't know before the accident. That introduction and relationship between her and her mother-in-law is just weird because usually you would meet your partner's family before you would get married, but she never did because they got married so quickly. So that connection starts off really awkward and very tense, and then it shapes into something quite beautiful. So what I love about this book is how it's just not like any traditional romance novel, and the way TGR writes her characters and the story is just something special. So I highly recommend you read this book because I actually did not expect myself to love this book as much as I did. The next question is a book that became or is becoming a TV series / movie. So I have a few selections for this question, and my first pick is a Summer I Turned Pretty series. This is currently a TV series on Amazon Prime. The first season came out last year, and I think the second season is coming out this year. This is a very cute YA romance about young love between this girl and two brothers. The next book pick I have under this question is one I know a lot of people have said as well, and that is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. The TV show is on Amazon Prime, and I just finished watching it. I've got to say, it was an alright watch to me. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it, but it was good. But I will say, the TV show makes a lot of the characters in this book so much more likable. For example, Camila. When reading this book, Camila didn't really stand out for me, but when I watched the TV show, I absolutely loved her character. I recommend you to read this book first before you watch the TV show. The last book pick I have under this question is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid as well. So this book is actually a movie, and that movie is already out now. I believe it's on Amazon, but I think you either have to rent or pay for it. I literally just found out a couple days ago that this was a movie. So I really want to watch this movie myself to compare the book to the film. The next question is a book from a genre you don't typically read, and for this I picked The Alchemist. This is a classic novel, and classics is a genre that I haven't really gotten into because I just find the Old English hard to read. But this book is so different. It's a classic novel, but it's not written in Old English. It's a very short and inspiring read. And if you're like me, someone who's not really into reading classic novels yet, but you're looking for a good book to start you into the genre, I would definitely pick up The Alchemist because it is a very easy classic novel read. The next question is what book deserves all the hype it gets, and my pick would be The Silent Patient. I recently just finished this book and it was so good. I've heard so many good things about it. I've literally heard nothing bad about it. So I decided to pick it up, and boy, those comments were right because I loved it. I was a little nervous starting off this book because I usually like my mystery thrillers fast paced, and this book kind of started off slow. It was like more medium paced. So in my head I was like, oh no, am I not gonna enjoy this as much because it's kind of slow, and I'm not a fan of slow books. But I decided to keep reading. It was just getting a little more intense bit by bit, and I just couldn't put the book down because I wanted answers, and it soon became a page turner for me. I think I finished this book in like 2 days. I probably could have finished this book faster, but I was just super busy with work and everything that week I was reading this book, but this book did help me get out of a really big reading slump. I highly recommend you give this book a try because it is one of my all-time favorite reads. The next question is a book that has my favorite characters, and I'm gonna have to pick the Court of Thorns and Roses series. This series is a fantasy read with some romance in it. I honestly can't really explain why I love the characters so much, but when you pick up this book, you just fall in love with all the characters. I'm gonna be honest, this first book was hard to get into. I almost DNF'd this series because of this first book, but then I picked up the second book and I just fell in love with it. And I read the entire series, and now I am desperately waiting for the next book in this series to come out. When is it gonna come out? I don't know yet. This series will take you a bit of time to read because there's a lot of books and each book is quite thick, but I'm telling you, it's so worth it. So if you haven't read the series yet, please add it to your reading list. The next question is what book you wish you can live in, and I will have to say, I wish I could live inside the Harry Potter series. I wish I could perform spells and do magic and play Quidditch and fly on a broomstick and also own an owl and a flying car, and the list goes on. There's just so many cool features that I wish actually existed in real life. I absolutely adore this series so much. Harry Potter is my childhood and it will never leave my heart. The next question is what book I would recommend the most, and I'm kind of cheating here because I'm doing a repeat book, but I thought about it and I just had to do it because I recommend this book to literally everybody I know, and the book is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn and Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Again, I know this book is film centered, and if you're not in film, it might not be something you're interested in, but I just think the character development alone is just so powerful, and it makes it a must read whether or not you were in film. The next question is a book you thought you would hate but ended up loving, and my book pick for this question is Beartown by Frederick Backman. This book is a 400-page plus book and is a literary fiction novel. So in my head, that automatically registered as a very slow-paced book for some reason. And I wasn't so sure if I wanted to read this book, but then my friend told me to read the first page of the book, and I did, and I was like, wow, this book is something. So I decided to pick it up, and I was right. It did start off slow, and I didn't love it that much, but I decided to keep reading, and at one point in the book, like I believe a third of the way there, this event happens, and you're like, oh my god. And that's when the book clicked for me, and I just started enjoying the book so much more. Reading the rest of the book, it was so sad, but I absolutely loved it, and I finished the book being so ready for the next book in the series. Anyways, guys, this is the end of my book recommendation tag. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about all the books I picked out. If you guys have read any of these books, I would love to hear your thoughts about them. And with that, I will see you guys in my next video, but if you guys haven't already done so yet, be sure to subscribe to my channel because there will be a lot more book videos on my channel. And also, while you're at it, give this video a thumbs up. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!
Pull the key out the ignition. Run your mouth but I never listen. You hold me back, will never last. Keep talking all your shit. Wondering how all this started. You left me broken hearted. You flip my words, yeah, this love hurts. Keep talking all your shit.